วัสดีค่ะ
In 1972 there was a serial killer roaming around Bangkok. Together with his long-term girlfriend and an Indian-born national, they killed up to 30 people. There were 12 recorded, but police think it could be up to 30, even more. He was known as a bikini killer, but he was more famously known as the Serpent. Netflix made a very good documentary, a very good 8-part series, 8 episodes I should say, on the Serpent. And today I'm going to take you to some of the filming locations where they actually made some of those episodes. I'm also going to take you to some locations where the real Serpent hung around, where he ate, where he lived. His apartment building is long gone now, but if you look behind me, this we're located at the end of Soi 4 now. And this particular apartment that I'm in at the moment is where they did the filming for the apartment scenes. And I'm going to see what kind of access we can get around there, maybe have a look at the apartment. Not sure, you've got to speak to the nice guy here on security. I've just given him a tip to see, let me come in and have a look around. The top floor apartment that I'm focusing in on is actually the apartment that they used to film the apartment scenes in the Serpent, and as you can see there are still people living there to this day. Although I can't actually get into the apartment, I could climb the stairs, and if you remember in the series, the Serpent's apartment was made up of 2 halves. They lived on the left hand side of the landing, and on the right is where they gave the room to Dominic, the French guy who actually escaped. I'll drop a picture in at the end so you can see what he looks like. Unfortunately, I couldn't get access to the apartment. As I said, people are living there, but there's a still shot from what it looked like, and there's a rather creepy picture of the Serpent coming in from the balcony. If you watch the Netflix series The Serpent, you'll recognise the swimming pool. There's a shot of it there as it was in the series, with the Serpent looking on in the background. And there's what's there today. That's still that same 1970s/1980s house there in the corner, very distinctive. And here's another still shot from the series. That same corner of the pool looks very different now. Well, there isn't a whole lot to look at. That's the legend, and that replaced the older building where Charles Sobhraj actually resided. So he would have walked down this very street, no doubt on his way to Patpong. Now obviously this is a fairly modern block, but if I just pan the camera around here, you can see some of the blocks are still quite old, and I would imagine the apartment building where he actually lived wasn't a lot different to what you're looking at now, especially the one on the right. Look at those cables. Now, just before this apartment building was demolished in 1994, there was an unfortunate case of a lady who came to Bangkok and she rented Charles Sobhraj's ex-apartment. She didn't know about what had gone on there, unfortunately. She found out a little bit later on, obviously shocked and horrified. She moved out, and the whole apartment building was then demolished quite soon after that. I've now come down to Patpong 1, a very famous entertainment area in the 60s and the 70s, especially with American officers on R&R from the Vietnam War. It's a little bit noisy, there's things going on. It is the daytime, it's the afternoon, but the main reason I've come down here is because the Serpent used to pick up some of his victims from here. So what he'd do, there was a famous go-go bar. It was actually the first go-go bar in Thailand to open. It was called the Mississippi Queen. Now, I've done some research on Google. I can't find the exact location where that bar was located. Maybe some of the viewers who are watching this know where it was located. You can drop it in the comments, let us know where it was. But I thought I'd give you a feel for the place anyway. So this is where the Serpent and his long-term girlfriend and the Indian national, they used to pick up some of their victims. This was an area that backpackers would hang around, and they would go into various bars, they'd sit outside and drink beers, and he'd befriend them. And he had an apartment very, very close to him. They'd pick up their victims from all over the place, but this is one of the locations. They'd befriend them, they'd take them to their apartment, let them use a swimming pool, and they'd crush various forms of poisons, rat poisons, sleeping tablets, heavy doses of sleeping tablets. And what would happen is they would become sick, the victims, and as they were sick, they would, on a pretense, they would make glasses of warm milk, but put more poison in on the pretense that it would get them better. But of course they got more ill, more sicker, and eventually they'd take them out of the apartment to various locations, and around Bangkok especially, and they'd basically kill them. But this is, like I say, one of the locations, but he would have certainly hung around this area. There's one of the oldest restaurants in Bangkok behind me. It's called the Madrid. It's famous because it was the first restaurant to ever serve pizza in Thailand. Most certainly he would have gone in there and had a meal from time to time, and I'll show you what that looks like today. It's all closed, as I say, but you can get a feel for what Patpong is. This is actually Patpong 1. They'll be setting up the market later on down there today. During COVID it was all shut. Thankfully, slowly it's coming back online, and when I was down here the other day, the market was starting to set up about 4 p.m. Now, another area that's very, very important is close to the old Malaysia Hotel and just off Satorn Road. I'll get into the details of that area a little bit later on in this video, but for now I want to take you and show you the old Malaysia Hotel. This was one of the early hotels that was erected especially for the influx of American troops with the Vietnam War, and that is the original picture you were looking at. And looking down one of the corridors now, as you can see, it does look quite dated, as does the bedrooms. Typical Thai style hotel. It's recently been renovated. There's the old bathrooms there, and coming up now is a renovated shot of the outside. That structure was actually bolted onto the outside of the hotel. It's basically a metal frame, and it modernizes the look of the hotel. There's a renovated bedroom there. It actually looks very, very nice, but you can see the shape and size of the old room. And the reception, that's obviously had a makeover as well. Now, I did go inside the Malaysia Hotel. I sat down for a while and I was able to get a little bit of footage. As you can see, it was very, very quiet, but there's a lot of history behind this hotel. Even Robin Williams stayed here in the making of the Vietnam film Good Morning Vietnam. The area I'm showing you now is the original backpackers area just off Satorn. It wasn't far from Patpong. It was also another hunting ground for the Serpent and his accomplices. They'd go there looking for vulnerable people. Original hippie area, as I say, young people drinking in bars, smoking pot, and generally hanging out and having a good time. It used to be an area full of cheap hostels, boarding houses, and it didn't have a great reputation. Even the old immigration was down there in the early 70s. It's been cleaned up a lot now. It's quite a nice area, but driving around you can still get a feel for what old Bangkok was in the early 70s and 80s. There's a derelict building there, no idea what that was, but it's just been left to rot. I'm now going to show you some of the film locations that were used in the making of the series The Serpent by Netflix, and obviously these venues had to look similar to what they were in the 70s and 80s to be authentic. The first of these venues is a hotel called the Atlanta Hotel. It's situated at the bottom of Sukhumvit Soi 2, and it's still very much Art Deco inside. Another hotel used in the filming of the series The Serpent was a Miami hotel, which is situated on Sukhumvit Soy 13. I actually went inside this hotel and took a little bit of video footage, and as you'll see, it is very, very interesting and very retro. You can see why they used this as part of a set while filming The Serpent.